I was molested at 5, yes, 5. And I don't want any child experiencing that. So if you have young children, please watch this video. I'll be sharing my experience and I'll be giving parents and guardians tips on how to avoid adults taking advantage of your young children. You're welcome to my channel. My name is Kemi Omorugbe. In 1993, my family moved to my hometown from the north because of the Abiola Babangida issues, political issues back then. And we were in our hometown, we were free, we'll go visit friends and we'll go visit uncles, aunties here and there. You know, basically everybody is your auntie, everybody is your mom, every older man is your father. You get it, that kind of community. We could all play with our neighbors like family. Unlike what we have today, right? Back then, having television in your home is considered a luxury. Then you are one of the comfortable ones. Because we didn't have television in our house, sometimes we'll go visit our friends and we'll watch with them, and some other times one uncle here and there. I remember this particular uncle, he wasn't living alone, he was living with his siblings, I think about 3 of them, but most times he was the one around and children loved him. You know that uncle in your neighborhood that just seemed to like children, you know, flock around him. He buys them stuffs and he just plays with them. Yes, that was that uncle. And we'll go to his house, we'll watch movie and we'll leave. Because of my age back then, I can't even say it was exactly that year. Maybe I was close to 6, between 5 and 6 anyways. But I remember everything that happened, even though I didn't know what was happening. Once in a while, my friend and I would be the one left. Some other times, maybe some other children, or he will ask 1 or 2 girl child to stay back. It wasn't the boys he was dealing with, it was the girls. I remember a couple of occasions, not just one, when he will carry me. Sometimes he will carry my friend. Sometimes the other children will even be there and he would just hug us and hug tightly. And then I used to wonder, why exactly is this uncle hugging so tightly? But then I thought maybe he just likes us, you know. And some other times he will hug my friend so tightly. I remember a particular day when this tight hug was really prolonged and he just carried me and held me tightly. And I remember feeling something in between my thigh. I didn't know what it was. In fact, I didn't know what was happening at all. It took me years. I think I was already in secondary school or university before I played back the whole incident in my mind, and then I understood exactly what this uncle was doing. There was a particular day when he hugged so tightly and I felt something between my legs, and then he squeezed and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, and then he stopped and dropped us and we're free to go. That happened again, and some other times it is my friend that he would hug so tightly like that for a while and then let us go. Fortunately, the incident wasn't an invasive one. There was no pulling of panties, there was no penetration, nothing of such. But that experience just somehow stayed with me over the years. And when I started knowing 1 or 2 things about sex later on in life, and I played back this whole thing, what he was basically doing was he was using us to masturbate. This man was putting his sexual organs in between our thigh and, you know, using our laps to masturbate himself and to derive sexual pleasure till the time he has a release, then he lets us go. We were 5. My friend was about 1 or 2 years older than I was, 6 or 7 then. I didn't understand what he was doing. I just felt like, oh, this uncle just likes carrying us. He likes hugging us. We're innocent. So over the years, that experience because it didn't mean anything significant to me, I didn't think much of it. And then later in life, I was then molested by a female cousin who was in our house. And I also like to share that experience because that one was slightly different. Okay, this was what happened. So we brought in this cousin of mine to come live with us for the holidays. And then my mom was doing a business that involved her traveling to the north. She would travel to the north, buy beans, bring it to my hometown, and then she would sell to retailers. My grandmother was alive and we're living in the same house. So on this particular day, school had just resumed, and I think I went the first day. And then the second day, we're told to bring buckets of water. And I was really reluctant to go fetch water because we didn't have water at home. That meant me going somewhere else to fetch water. I was about the age of 7 or 8-ish then. I remember clearly that it was the new term. It was the first term when I was supposed to move from primary 2 to primary 3. That I remember. The first day of that term I was in school. The second day when we were asked to bring this water, because I was really reluctant, I spoke to my cousin who is older than I am, even though she was still a child. She was a teenager, early teenage years, and she herself must have been exposed to some form of sexual molestation when she was younger, for her to know that much at that age. So, well, because I was reluctant to go fetch water, she told me, Kemi, no need to go, don't go. And I was like, yeah, that's true. I'll just stay home. After all, my mom is not around, my dad is not around. She gave me all the tips to use to avoid being questioned by my grandma. So I dressed up and left the house, went to a nearby school, hung around the perimeter of the school, and after a while, I came back home. And my grandma was like, Kemi, why are you back so early? And I said, they drove me home. They said I should come and collect school fees. That was a tip from her as well. Tell grandma that they asked for your school fees and they say if you don't have school fees, you should go. And my grandma was like, no, you have to go back. She was an old woman. So she tried to talk me into going back to school, but then I refused. I hung around the house a little bit just so she could forget, and later I went inside and I just jumped on the bed. All the while, this cousin of mine had been telling me, Kemi ma law school, show that I'm a shere. And I felt, we are going to play. Of course, shere is play, okay? Yoruba word, shere. I didn't know she had something else in her mind. And she kept saying, ma law school, tobati deliver a shere. And that was ringing my head. We are going to play. I thought maybe she had some kind of games or something we'll play that would engage me at home. So I jumped on the bed, and I was still trying to hide myself from my grandma. So this lady jumped on me and started fingering me immediately. And a little bit on my background, I wasn't brought up in a home that encouraged communication, freedom, and personally as a person, I'm a reserved person. I don't open up easily, and when it comes to things, if you are from an African home, maybe you had this type of upbringing where there are just some things you never talk about. And if you ever mention anything relating to sex or body, you're in trouble, okay? You are going to be blamed for everything. So even at that age, I understood that I dare not tell my mom what this girl did. Otherwise, I would be blamed. I was really scared. And I couldn't tell my parents. At night, this girl wouldn't allow me to sleep. She would be playing around my body. I was so scared. I was scared of her, and I was scared of reporting to my parents. And looking back now, I don't even know why I was scared, honestly, but I was so terrified. I was ashamed of what I was allowing her do to me. I would basically squeeze my hand and freeze this way while she goes about what she was doing. I was so scared. The innocence of a child, guys. God, okay, let me just hold on till I get to, sharing tips with parents on how to prevent things like this. It happened again and again until she left that house. And it took me having my first child to be able to call my mom aside and say, Mom, this is what happened when so person came to our house. And maybe I will share that with you in another video. And also, I eventually confronted her in my adult years. That's about 5 years ago, because it was a trauma I carried through life. It affected some parts of me when I was in secondary school, when I was in university. There were things I started struggling with from that point. And that was the origin of it all. And these things were there throughout my adulthood. I couldn't even open up to anybody. I ended up opening up to my husband, then my fiancé, who kind of made me feel like, okay, it's okay. Do you understand? So I felt a bit of relief. Okay, but the effect that had on me and the decisions I made thereafter, they were a lot. That is why it is better to protect the innocence of a child if you can. I know there are so many sexual perverts who are working on the minds of young children, who are molesting them mentally, physically. The things that can come from exposing a mind that isn't matured enough to handle certain things, the consequences can be great, except through the help of God, and if that child is able to open up to an adult. But we all know that most times we haven't been brought up that way to tell our parents what we are really going through. We want to appear perfect, we don't want to be ashamed, and also because children don't know better. So these were the two major experiences I had of sexual molestation. Thankfully, none of it involved penetrative sex. Thankfully, I wasn't raped. But I know it is worse for a lot of girls. Do you know that statistically speaking, 1 in every 4 girls has experienced a form of molestation, from exposure to pornography, to masturbation, to rape, psychological abuse. There are a lot that young girls go through, but there is a culture of silence where people don't want to talk about it. You know, when I read about 1 in 4 girls being molested, it felt, oh, Kemi, and you thought it was only you. I didn't know how it was common, and with just a little bit more sexual education, even at that age, there were things I wish I knew before then. Like at 8, I didn't even relate that experience to what happened to me at 5, because they were just separate incidences, and I still didn't understand the whole drama. Why was she touching me? What is she looking for? Those were my thoughts because of how naive I was. This was somebody that wasn't even that much older than I was, but who I know has also been a victim of sexual abuse from her village, where she came from. Because just imagine a girl of 13, she was between 13 to 15 then. I know she was older than my elder brother, but she wasn't above 15 years old. She was already overexposed to sex. Some years later, when I was in boarding school, because I didn't share my experience with my parents, she visited again and she attempted to molest my younger sister, who was maybe around 10 years old thereabout. But thankfully, because of her personality and also the fact that our parents were around, so she reported her, and that was the day she was sent away from our house. And I remember feeling so ashamed of myself when I heard the news. I was in a boarding school. So when my parents came around visiting day and then they told me what had happened, oh, so person visited our house and she wanted to do this to your sister, and your sister reported. You can imagine how ashamed of myself I was. I was like, that's what you should have done, Kemi. Why didn't you tell your parents? Why? I felt bad and I felt guilty that I allowed my younger sister to also be exposed to the same experience. I felt bad, but I still even couldn't bring myself to say it, because then I'll be blamed for not saying it earlier. And it goes on and on like that. Okay, at this point, I'll be sharing with you some tips as parents. If you have a girl child, even boys these days. Oh, I'm so particular about boys because I have 2 sons. My first and my second children are boys. And I know that a large percentage of boys get their first sexual experience from their mates. So first and foremost, my children are not going to share a room with the maid. We have to find a way to make sure that doesn't happen. Because mates, you don't know them. Most time they work with you for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and they are gone. Even the ones that stay with you for 10 years, your children are still not safe around them because they don't have that connection that you have with your children. For my children, that's one of the resolve I took, even though they are boys. Either boys or girls, you still have to protect your children against these perverts roaming around. We hear it happening all the damn time. So you may have to be really paranoid. Yes, let people say you are paranoid. No problem. Be paranoid when it comes to your children, because you need to protect the children, both their physical well-being and their mental well-being, because sex is a gateway for a lot of things infiltrating the life of your children, and you really want to protect that innocence till they are matured enough to handle it. Just look around you. Those people you trust sometimes are the most dangerous people. Some of you have house helps. Some of you have uncles staying in your house. You have aunties staying in your house. Most times, those people that you trust the most are the most dangerous people for your children to be around. Just look around. No, sometimes if you are not considering yourself, you are just projecting outwardly when you hear things like this. It may not sink in properly. But look at your house right now. You have your sisters. Yes, your sisters. Your brother, your brother-in-law, a house help. They are in that house with you. You have to be paranoid when it comes to your children. They are the ones that have the most access to your children, and most times we are not even sensitive enough to what is happening around us. And some parents will be like, oh, it's uncle so now, let's just leave her. She's fine. Oh, uncle, please, can I drop Junior with you? I'm going to the market. Sometimes even when your children complain about these people, you think they're just being childish. Please be sensitive to your children. Now, let me share some tips with you that can help you protect your children better. These tips can help keep both you and your children alert against sexual perverts. First and foremost, there's nothing as important as making sure that your children have age-appropriate sexual education as early as 2 years, 3 years. Make sure that they know that some parts of their bodies are private. And some perverts go for those extra young children because they know they may not understand. So imagine at 5, you don't understand what is happening yet. So teach your children how to protect their bodies, especially when you are not there. Let them know the names of the body parts, not my pico or my... No. Call it their biological names. There's nothing wrong with those names. There's nothing wrong with vagina. It is a part of the body. There's nothing wrong with your penis. It is a part of the body. Don't associate shame with those names because that is where it starts from. The breast is the breast. That is what it is called. It's an English word for breast is breast. Do you understand? So it is not something to be ashamed of. Don't go explicit when they are very young. Okay, you don't have to teach them penetration and all of those stuffs. No, there are things appropriate for each age. By the age of 2, 3, let them know the names of their body parts. Let them know some parts are private, some parts are okay. If people hold your hand, it is okay. You understand. But if somebody touches your stomach, it is getting too far. Your vagina, nobody should touch it except mom and dad. At the age of 6, you can begin to introduce more gradually. And please, as parents, you have to educate yourself. Gone are the days where you just parent as it comes. No, they say there is no manual for parenting. Please, there's manual for parenting. Go online and research. Just go on Google right now and type age-appropriate sex education for so age. You're going to see a lot of resources. Check on videos and you see a lot of videos, teaching what is appropriate for each age. That brings me to the second point. Please encourage open communication. Let your children be able to talk to you freely. Don't make them ashamed of their experience. And that starts from the little things. How do you express shock when they do something wrong or when they do something you don't expect? Maybe they poured water in one, you be like, ah! That kind of child will know that if I dare tell my mom so and so, she's going to be so shocked. She's going to scream. She's going to exaggerate it. Some of them now develop the habit of being secretive. They don't want to tell you everything. They're keeping things to themselves because they don't want you to overreact. Even when it's not related to sex, when they approach you with different issues, try not to be too shocked. Your children need to understand from the get-go that when they come to present issues that are not pleasant to you, they are not going to get blamed for it. You can communicate that to them verbally that, okay, if you report so and so person to me, just know that I will not punish you for what they did. Communicate that to them verbally. And it also starts from little things within the house. Try not to judge them when they report aunties, uncles, whoever is living with you on general issues happening within the house. That's when it gets registered in their mind that this is the approach that you will take. When I tell my mom or my dad what an uncle or an auntie has done, I'm not going to they have my back, basically. Do you understand? See, when it comes to parenting, it is a lot because you also want to create a balance. You don't want those uncles and aunties feeling somehow But God will give us wisdom. See, we are all a work in progress, myself inclusive. Parenting is a lot of work, and many of us don't even learn to parent properly. Please, we need to do better. Now, it is also important that you establish boundaries and let your children know the boundaries when it comes to relating with people, from neighbors to aunties and uncles. I'll keep mentioning aunties and uncles and helps because they are the people you trust. Okay, so be wary of even the people you trust. Don't say, oh, Uncle So is a born again brother, he would never do that. It is those people that even think they will never do that. Those are the people you should watch the most. Don't let your children be so free to go to a particular uncle's house and they are staying there for hours. Like in my case, for example, go there and watch movies. You go to the uncle's house and you see many children there. So you may want to, just relax your mind. They are just playing there. They just went to greet uncles. See, even if they're in the company of other children, that doesn't mean they can't be molested. The other children, they won't even know what is happening. They won't. I see some children and there are some uncles that are always lapping them. In my opinion, you should discourage it as much as possible. You don't have to say it to the uncle's face, but call your daughter, call your son thereafter and tell them, don't do this, don't sit on guys' lap. Do you understand? Talk to your children about those boundaries. Don't let strangers or neighbors or people that live with you, your helps, and they are kissing your daughters and kissing your sons on their lips. Those are the things that you should make sure from the get-go, you don't even allow such to happen. And in that case, if that happens, I will tell that uncle straight up, please don't do that. Apart from protecting your child from sexual molestation, disease can be transferred through the lips. So watch it, parents. It is your responsibility to take care of your child. Make sure you are doing it properly. Monitor the relationship between your children and the adults in the house and around the house. And I won't say adults now, even teenagers, guys. What some teenagers know, even you don't know it. Don't trust anybody. As part of monitoring these relationships, you have to be careful of things like sleepover. If I have a teenager, I don't think I will allow such sleepovers. Please, let your children be within the place where you can monitor them. And if at all, maybe you're a businesswoman and you can't stay with your children, the next set of people that I can trust with my children are their grandparents. Their grandparents, most times they'll take care of your children the way you will take care of them because they are still theirs at the end of the day. So those are the people I can, comfortably keep my children with. But even that, you still need to be wary because sometimes it is not only your children that are with the grandparent, they have other children around, they have some other adults around, they have helps as well. So you may want to talk to them about the boundaries you have established in your house so that they can continue that when you are not available to guide your children. Now, watch your child also. Children are different. Okay, as a mom of three, my 3 children. Okay, I don't really know about my last child because that last girl, she's behaving like her eldest brother right now. But you see, my first son and my second son, they are just opposites, completely opposite people. While my first son is very outgoing and will tell you anything and wants to be there with you all the time, my second son can just stay on his own. If you leave him with granny for 3 days, by the time he sees you, he's not like acting like I've missed you. Do you understand? He's more reserved, a lot like me when I was younger. I see myself a lot in my son. So he's a reserved person, he doesn't talk easily. And parents, please, if you have that kind of child, you need to engage that child, please. They are the most vulnerable people because these monsters looking out to molest children, sometimes they monitor the personality of children and they know the one that will not talk to their parents. They know the one that can keep secrets to themselves. And they know the one that will be so afraid if they threaten him or her. So if you have that type of, like me, I know that my mission is to make sure that that boy always talks to me. I don't want to make him scared to the extent that he can't talk to me. I know how I correct him. I still work on myself as a parent because sometimes it's hard. I have to be honest with you. But I know the kind of personality he has, and because I have been there, I understand him a lot. You have to help them open up to you. Some children will easily talk to you about anything. They are not afraid of adults, but some children, they are generally more timid. Those are the ones you should make sure you keep an eye on the most. I'm not saying you should not watch the other children, but these ones, keep your eyes on them the most. not just watching them, know the cues. If your child that is reserved becomes even more reserved, please start talking to that child. Start, trying to engage them in conversation. If you see that your child is entering room to just go and lie in one corner and face the wall, open up a channel of communication. If you notice that your child isn't eating well or is just not generally happy, you know that you have to come in and rub mind with your child. And some of them, they've been doing well in school and you just notice they are no longer focusing all of a sudden. So sometimes these children will not come and talk to you directly about what is happening. Please probe into such situations. But when you are doing that, do it calmly, okay? Not in a scary way. Don't overblow it. Reassure that child that they are safe and it is not about them when you're investigating their behaviors, okay? Make them understand that I'm for you, because that's the truth. But because they are young, they may not understand that. Also, please make sure you're in good communication with their teacher and whoever they spend more time with. Sometimes your child is a completely different child from the child at home. I know when I was in boarding school, there were people that came as completely different persons from who they are at home. Some are SUs at home, at school they become something else. So keep an open communication line between you and your children's guardian at any stage, maybe their teacher, their lesson teacher, their homeschool teacher, and make sure you are keeping track of their progress. And it is not just their academics, their social well-being, which is basically how they are relating with their other peers. And from that you may get 1 or 2 cues, because sometimes these things happen in school. Some other children who have been exposed wrongly and have been molested may not know better than to also molest your children. I have seen that happening for real. Do we call that molestation, or what exactly do we call that? I don't even know. So that's why you need to watch your child and also communicate with those who watch your children. Last but not the least, this one, I am pained that I have to include it. It's paining my chest because it is just absurd, and I don't want to say I'm even ashamed to be putting that on the table. Recently, I've had cases of children being molested by their own father. Not even recently, it has been happening, but I think this year I've heard more than I've been hearing before, and it is crazy. To me, it is crazy. I can't even imagine the pain such mothers are going through. So the husband you marry, in as much as you trust your partner, the person you are married to, still leave that very tiny corner of your eyes to watch what you're doing with your daughters, especially the young ones that can't even communicate what is going on. I've heard children as early as 2-3 years old be molested by their own father. It is a shame. If you're a father here, please, you should be talking to your fellow men. So mothers, please. The society has gone haywire. You should trust your spouse 100%, right? But these days, the society is telling us, no, just leave a small chance and watch what they're actually doing. And what's still with their own daughters. So some men are that evil. So if you are married and your child, please, when your child comes to tell you such a news, just know that they can't be lying against their father. Believe them and take the appropriate actions. Don't cover it up. The worst type of trauma you can inflict on your child is not to believe them when they tell you about an adult, and then some of you will go ahead and use it against them because you are more concerned about staying married than protecting your child. That's so evil. If your children comes and reports such to you, I don't think the innocent child could have cooked up that kind of story. Listen to them. The man will deny, but please listen to your child and investigate further. So this is where I would draw the curtain here. Thank you very much for watching. If you know you can relate to some of the things I've said, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. I know I can't possibly cover everything relating to sexual molestation, so I would really appreciate your input in the comment section. I really want us to talk about this some more. Please drop your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you very much. See you in my next video. Bye.